Hi everyone, as you know, I'm Carly. I want to switch gears today. I know I have been doing videos, cooking and gaming with my daughter, but this is something that's really been on my heart to report on. As a former reporter, I was a reporter for a short period of time, and I only live about 25 minutes away from East Palestine, okay? And I've got a lot of information here for you guys, and I just am very concerned about the people there and their safety, the long-term effects this could have on them, and the effects this is already having on some of the people. So I just want to let you guys know that I live a half hour away, first off, okay? And I'm not as concerned for my safety. Luckily, the river flows the other direction, and apparently the wind for the most part as well. So I think that we are kind of in the clear here. There's still a little bit of a concern, but it's not nearly as bad as the concern I have for the people of East Palestine and the long-term effects. And I don't think Norfolk Southern is doing nearly enough, or what they should be doing, for these poor people whose lives have been pretty much turned upside down. I mean, especially the people right next to the derailment. Their lives have just been upended, and you know, a lot of them had to stay in hotels for weeks, and they really should still be out of there, in my opinion. I'm just going to read off some facts about this, and I'll throw in a little bit of my opinion, and if you disagree, that's totally fine. I urge you to do your own research on this, because health is very important. You know, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So it's very important to look into, especially if you're in the area. So first tidbit I want to give you guys is Norfolk Southern didn't show up to the first town hall meeting because they were afraid for their safety. Now, I can tell you firsthand, I love East Palestine, and the people there are so nice. I don't think anyone there would have gotten violent, you know, maybe angry, and rightfully so, but I know that nobody there would be violent in any way. I think this is just kind of an excuse, obviously. And the EPA demanded that they show up to the following town halls after they refused the first, and they were actually citing threats and stuff, which again, the people of this town are so nice. Me and my daughter, and that's one thing I wanted to tell you guys too, me and my daughter have been swimming there since she was a baby. There's this really nice pool we love right in the town, very close by the train derailment, and it's such a cute little town and pool, and there's like a cute little ice cream hot dog shop right next to the pool we'd always go to after that. We have so many fun memories there, and I wanted to show you this real quick. We ended up on the front page of the paper when she was just a toddler. Hopefully that's showing up okay. There in Ohio, and this was at the East Palestine pool. It was right next to, literally like a minute away from where the train derailment happened. But yeah, we were just swimming that day, and it was like 90 degrees, so they just kind of did a story on people cooling down in the area. Let me just adjust my camera real quick for you. So yeah, they, you know, did a story on that, and we ended up on the front page, so it was just cool. It's like every time we went back to the pool, people would be like, hey, I saw you in the paper. And the people there are so friendly, so nice. Now, residents have been reporting rashes, bloody noses, and headaches, and they repeatedly voiced concerns about the long-term effects that this derailment and controlled burn is having on their health. Another interesting fact is the CDC required a second command post in Columbiana, the county that it's in, for the cleanup of the derailment. Also, Norfolk Southern is offering, this is a good thing, okay? Kind of. It's good on one side, but you'll see. Norfolk Southern's offering students scholarships in East Palestine. Very interesting and very good, but in my humble opinion, they need to be doing so much more than just that, okay? And I have so many notes for you guys, so forgive me if I have to, you know, just sit here for a second and look. Also, I have an 11-month-old, so she may wake up. So if there's pauses and cuts and a few edits, that's why. She's taking a nap right now. So hopefully I get this all done in that amount of time. But anyhow, so the president and CEO of Norfolk Southern, Alan Shaw, had $445,000 he was going to sell in stock. And shout out to Squirrel Tribe for this information. She always does her research. She's not an official reporter, but she's a great reporter. And she gets really good sources and reports facts, and then just kind of tells you her opinion, which is what I'm trying to do today as well. So big shout out to her. I got a lot of this info from her page, and I did my own research as well, just to kind of back it up. But she's a really good source because she only gets, the good sources, and she really knows how to dig. So great job, Squirrel Tribe, and thank you for a lot of this information today that I'm reporting on, because I definitely watched your video first, and then I went back and double checked a lot of this stuff, and I found it out for myself. And I urge you to do that. If you're questioning anything at all, if you just want to double check, do your own research. Health is so important. You need to feel safer, especially if you're in the area. And if you're not, it's good to raise awareness on this. And it's good to know what's actually going on. So anyway, there are roughly, and this is from Squirrel Tribe, the U.S. Census, the president and CEO of Norfolk Southern, like I said, Alan Shaw, he had $445,000 he was going to sell in stock, okay? But instead, he's going to give that money for students of East Palestine for scholarships. Now, according to the U.S. Census, there are about 1,100 people under the age of 19 in East Palestine. The town has over 5,000 people. It's a pretty small town. I know firsthand because we live very close by. And again, we love the pool there, and we go multiple times every summer. So there are only about 287 kids that are like high school scholarship age in that area. And, a question Squirrel Tribe posed, and I would ask the same thing: who gets that money, and how do we determine who gets that money? This is all great, and I'm very happy that the students are getting this, but it seems kind of PR stunty, seems like it could be kind of a PR stunt, because what are they doing for the residents that had to leave their homes, the residents that may not have the money to move out of the area but really want to because they're very concerned for their health and need to move out. Now, we do know they had to give $825,000 for equipment replacement to firefighters when they put out the fire after the derailment, because their gear was covered in chemicals after they put out the fire. And I agree with Squirrel Tribe on this. They need to do more. And it's great that they're paying for the firefighters as well, but they should be paying for everyone in that vicinity of the explosion then. They need to pay for their houses if they want to move. They need to pay for anything that could have been contaminated, in my opinion, cars, their clothes, everything that could have been contaminated from this. Let me just adjust this a little more. I think my camera's trying to fall on me. So, this is just another interesting little tidbit. Since I live so close by, I was shopping at the Chippewa Giant Eagle, which is only about roughly 10, maybe 15, probably more like 10 minutes away from East Palestine, and I heard her saying, and this was only a few weeks ago, I heard her saying that her house still reeked, okay, still smelled of chemicals, and that she was still in a hotel and didn't want to go home. So these people's lives have been, turned upside down, and it's great that they're paying for the firefighters' equipment replacement. It's great that the president and CEO of Norfolk Southern, Alan Shaw, is offering scholarships. That's all great, but what are they doing, again, for these people, other than setting up health clinics and stuff? That's all fine and dandy, health clinics, but what are they doing? I just see potential lawsuits. I see lawsuits in their future, and I would tell the citizens to hold out if you get a settlement right away, because the longer you hold out, the more you could potentially get, and you deserve, if you've had to move, and if you're experiencing anything health-wise, any health effects on this. I urge you to go see your own doctor, get it on file. Don't just go to these health clinics. Go to your own doctor, get it on file for records, for record purposes, okay? Now, another interesting thing, okay, is that dioxins could have potentially been released after the controlled burn. Now, before I did my research on this, I didn't know what dioxins were, but the EPA ordered Norfolk Southern to test for dioxins after the train derailment. So how's everything fine? And that's my other issue, is they're telling everyone it's safe, okay? But we'll get into this in a little while. There's railroad workers getting sick. I already told you about the residents who are getting sick. So how's everything fine? Animals have died. Fish died. There's a video where there's a kid in a creek, and he shows, literally, you can see the rainbow effect, the chemicals in the water, okay? So I want to read you guys what dioxins are, in case you didn't know. And if you have any questions on this, again, I urge you to do your own research because health is so important, okay? And we need to be aware of everything with this. So, did dioxins spread after the train derailment? They think they could have potentially. So what are dioxins? And this is according to the Columbus Dispatch. Dioxins refer to a group of toxic chemical compounds that can persist in the environment for long periods, according to the World Health Organization. They're created through combustion and attach to dust particles, which is how they begin to circulate through an ecosystem. Residents near the burn could have been exposed to dioxins in the air that landed on their skin or were breathed into their lungs, said Frederick Gingerich, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, a toxicologist at Vanderbilt University. Skin exposure to high concentrations can cause what's known as, and I don't know how to pronounce this, chloracne, paracne, an intense skin inflammation. Okay, so that's very concerning. But the main pathway that dioxins get into human bodies is not directly through something burning. It's through the consumption of meat, dairy, fish, and shellfish that have been contaminated. The contamination takes time, okay? And that's why it's important for the authorities to investigate this site now, said Ted Shetler, a physician with a public health degree who directs the Science and Environmental Health Network, a coalition of environmental organizations. Okay, so this is all very interesting. There's a little more I wanted to read you. Now, once released, dioxins can stick around in the soil for decades. That's the concerning thing, too. They can contaminate plants, including crops. They accumulate up the food chain in oils and other fats. In East Palestine, it's possible that soup particles from the plume carried dioxins onto nearby farms where they could stick to the soil, McBride said. If you have grazing animals out there in the field, they will pick up some of the dioxins from the soil particles, he said. And so some of that gets into their bodies, and then that accumulates in the fat tissue. Eventually, those dioxins can make their way up the food chain to human consumers. And that's bioaccumulation, and that means that more dioxin can get into humans than what's found in the environment after the crash. Because animals don't metabolize it the same way, okay? Animals don't metabolize and get rid of dioxins like we do other chemicals, Scheller said. And dioxin is stored in the fat of animals that humans eat, like fish, and builds up over time, making the health effects worse. So, that's very concerning to me, okay? And there are, again, long-term effects with this. Sometimes the effects don't start showing up for 10 years. I know I had seen that somewhere. So, and this also says, as with many environmental exposures, it would be hard to prove any dioxin present came from the derailment. And that's the concerning thing for me with the people here. That's why I said, you know, if you're thinking about lawsuits or anything like that, you really need to go to your own doctor, get everything on file right away as soon as possible. If you're experiencing rashes after a shower, if you get migraines now and you didn't before, you know, if anything is abnormal that you didn't have before this, you really need to get this on file. So, should East Palestine residents be concerned? Do they think here, you know, do these scientists and researchers, do they think that they should be concerned? But yes, they agree that residents have reason for concern about dioxins from this derailment. Even though they are present in small amounts from other sources, so they're already in the environment, but we're worried about the contamination and the bigger concentration of the dioxins now after the derailment. Even though they are present in small amounts from other sources, the large amount of vinyl chloride burned off from the train cars could create more than usual, McBride said. And that's my concern, that there could be an unusual concentration, he said. But again, I'm waiting to see if these soils are analyzed. And so hopefully, you know, they are analyzing the soils, as they said. And I agree with Squirrel Tribe that, you know, they should maybe get a third party in there to do testing, but will they allow that? And that's the thing. And again, it's concerning with dioxins, you know, they're found in food, dairy, meat, fish, plants, low levels, but now these could be much higher levels found in all this. So again, I urge you to do your own research on dioxins. That's the research I did so far, and it sounds pretty concerning to me. So one more thing, in case I didn't mention this, dioxins have been linked with cancer, developmental problems in children, and reproductive issues, and also infertility in adults. It takes between 7 and 11 years for dioxins to start to break down in the body of a person or animal. So again, I'm very concerned about the long-term effects this can have on people in the area and animals, and also the mental health issues, the extreme levels of anxiety that the people of East Palestine are having or will have. So again, very concerned about this and the large concentration of them present in the soil. Again, there are already low levels of dioxins and everything, but we're worried about the high concentration that it can have now after the controlled burn of the vinyl chloride. So, on to the next point. My burning question though, how is this safe? Railroad workers are getting sick, and that's the next point. The president of the U.S. Railroad Union said that workers at the site are getting sick, and they told this to the Biden administration. So I want to bring up that article for you, and this comes from NBC. So, let me just bring this article up for you, and you'll have to wait 1 second because I believe my baby just woke up. So I'll be back with you in 1 minute. Rail unions tell Biden officials workers have fallen ill at the Norfolk Southern derailment site. The presidents of the U.S. railroad unions told Biden administration officials that rail workers have fallen ill at the Norfolk Southern derailment site in East Palestine, Ohio, in a push for more train safety. Leaders from 12 unions met with the Transportation Secretary, Pete Buttigieg, and Amit Bose. I'm pretty positive that's how you pronounce those. Administrator of the Federal Railroad Administration in Washington, D.C., Wednesday to discuss the derailment, aftermath, and needed safety improvements. Okay, the meeting, and we'll kind of skip down here because it's a very long article. Let's see, where do we want to go? Jeremy Ferguson, president of the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, and Transportation Workers, Transportation Division, told CNBC that Buttigieg plans on more talks with the unions in the future. This meeting comes on the heels of letters sent to both the DOT and FRA Wednesday, in which union representative claims rail workers have gotten sick at the derailment site. Now, according to the letter, Norfolk Southern rail workers who have worked or continue to work the cleanup site have reported experiencing migraines and nausea. One worker reportedly asked his supervisor to be transferred off the derailment site because of his symptoms, but never heard back from his supervisor and was left at the job site. So, how much do they care? Okay, how much do they care about the residents of East Palestine, and how much do they even care about their own workers who are reporting that they're getting sick at the site, but nothing's being done about it? And how is this safe? Okay, burning question. How is this safe when rail workers are reporting that they're getting sick? I'm pretty sure they probably don't want to just go home for the day. They're actually getting sick. And now this is another interesting thing, and thank you, Squirrel Tribe, for this information too, that I also verified myself, as far as the railroad workers getting sick, I believe, and also that senators introduced the Railway Safety Act. And yes, this was according to Squirrel Tribe and multiple sources that I found online after watching her video. So let me just read part of that article to you as well. Hi, Bubby. What you doing? And it's all great that they are introducing, finally, a Railway Safety Act, but of course, this happened after the derailment. And is this enough? No, definitely not enough. Definitely not enough for the residents of East Palestine, whose lives have been turned upside down, who are extremely anxious, understandably so, about their health, and, who have to deal with all of this. So I'm going to read this part to you, though. It is good that they are doing the Railway Safety Act, but again, this comes after, of course, the disastrous chemical explosion. But 2 U.S. representatives from Ohio have introduced a bipartisan bill to try to improve railroad, sometimes I just don't pronounce it right, safety in the light of last month's train derailment in East Palestine. Okay, under the act, the Secretary of Transportation would be directed to issue new rules to improve the safety based on the findings of the NTSB investigation in conjunction with the Federal Railroad Administration. The act would increase inspections on all trains, including those carrying hazardous materials, increase maximum penalties for violations of rail safety regulations, and audit federal rail inspection programs. And that's great too. The act would also strengthen regulations to prevent wheel bearing failures, which caused the East Palestine train derailment, and strengthen requirements for safety that would have helped emergency responders in identifying the hazardous materials in the rail cars on site, as well as increased funding for hazardous materials training for first responders. Okay, and that's all great, fine and dandy. But again, is this enough? No. And it's not enough for the residents of East Palestine, again, like I said, whose lives have been flipped upside down after this derailment and who are suffering anxiety and health effects. So let me get into the next point for you guys. Back on the railway safety workers getting sick, I think it's terrible that, nothing was done for the workers on site who reported that they were getting sick. And again, this shows how much they actually care even about their own workers. So much more that needs to be done with this. And I want to thank Squirrel Tribe again for this little tidbit of information. The closest Costco to me is about a half hour away, so that would make it probably roughly 55 minutes away from East Palestine, but they will test your water for free there. And yeah, she's correct that the closest Costco to East Palestine is in Robinson. And again, that's about a 55-minute drive. But if you really want to get your water tested, then that's the thing to do, okay? So let me get on to the next point for you guys. There's just so much here, so much information to take in. And this is just another little interesting thing I found. Completely forgot about this because it really wasn't a big deal back in the day, but this happened in 2006. And this happened literally 2 minutes away from me. There was a Norfolk Southern railroad derailment in New Brighton. At the time I lived in Patterson, so it was only about literally 2 minutes from where I lived. Now this one, they just let it burn out. It wasn't nearly as big, but still dangerous. There were 100 people that were evacuated, but they determined that the safest option was to let this burn out after the train cars derailed. So this is very interesting too. Why was this determined the safest option? I don't know. But yeah, I can bring this up for you too. New Brighton train derailment. On Friday, October 20th, 2006, a freight train derailed off a railroad trestle in New Brighton, Pennsylvania. The train contained 86 cars of ethanol, so that can be dangerous, of which 24 cars either derailed, were damaged, or were leaking. Several rail cars fell into the Beaver River. A fire began at the scene and emergency crews evacuated 100 people from their homes. It was determined that the safest option would be to allow the fire to burn itself out before removal of the rail cars would occur. Air and surface water monitoring and sampling were being conducted. So just very interesting, and it's Norfolk Southern yet again. And they just let it burn out, okay? And some of those cars did contain ethanol. So another very interesting thing I wanted to just kind of point out to you guys. And now these are just some facts in case you forgot. I know it's been over a month since the East Palestine train derailment, but there's still so much coming out about it and so much news, obviously, to report on. But this is from USA Today, multiple other sources. A total of 38 cars derailed, okay, and then the fire ensued, damaging 12 other cars. 20 cars carrying hazardous materials, only 11 of which derailed. So there were 11 cars with hazardous materials that derailed. Now some people weren't sure who approved the controlled burn. Mike DeWine is the one who gave the order to do the controlled burn. He signed off on the plan to do the controlled burn. After the derailed chemical cargo, and Josh Shapiro, governor of PA, approved that as well. So just in case you were wondering, the facts on that, and those are the facts, and that's how many cars derailed and how many were carrying hazardous materials. So another interesting fact that I got from Squirrel Tribe and other sources is that now they want to do a federal review, okay, to determine if Norfolk Southern is at fault. Okay, I agree 1000% with her. We don't need a federal review to determine if they're at fault. And, and this is how I feel about the situation. They need to, quit lying to the people of East Palestine about this being completely safe when they aren't even positive if it is safe. They're still doing testing. They still have sites there. Their railroad workers are getting sick. Residents are getting sick. They're most definitely at fault. And they need to stop lying to the people of East Palestine, whose lives, again, have been just flipped upside down after this. They need to stop just declaring it safe when they're still testing the soil for toxins. Again, these dioxins that can affect the entire ecosystem and work their way up the food chain, causing miscarriages, all kinds of health effects, as I told you. So again, the residents are getting sick now. Railroad workers are getting sick on the site. The EPA is setting up a more permanent base there. CDC came back again. So much more. So how is this safe if railroad workers are getting sick? People are still getting sick. They don't know the long-term effects if these chemicals are more present in the soil now, these dioxins, at a high concentration and work their way up through the ecosystem, affecting everything, plants, crops, animals, and eventually working their way up the food chain into human consumption. The people, the great people of the little town of East Palestine, the adorable little town that I love, they need to hear the truth, okay? And they need to be compensated or sue if their health has been affected at all. And I wouldn't settle for less. I would not settle for less. And again, I would go visit your own doctors, get everything written down on file. Any negative health effects that you have been experiencing after this, please go to your own doctor and get that on file. This is not safe, okay? This can't be declared safe until extensive testing is done of the soil and until nobody's getting sick, okay? There's people who weren't getting sick before who are now. People who weren't experiencing nausea, migraines, burning throat, I've heard, all kinds of things. They can't tell people this is safe when they're still testing the soil and everything else. So I urge you to do your own research on this. Just please be aware, look out for your health and yourself, and I'm praying for everyone of East Palestine. I hope you all make it through this, and I hope that if you do need compensated, had to move, stay up in a hotel for weeks, that you are very well compensated for this, but hold out. If you get a settlement and have a lawyer, I would hold out just so you could probably get more in the future. Good luck, you guys, and I'll be praying for every single person of East Palestine and surrounding areas that were affected by this, and more videos to come. Bye.